Jackson. I mean, he sued over 240 people for all kind of things, but one thing his mama told him was never indict for slander or sue for assault. Take care of it yourself. And so he never sued anybody for slander. He'd pull out a cane and whip. He'd beat you real quick and such. And they got in a duel, this Jesse Benton and Jackson. Jesse Benton wounded him. Jackson was buried to this day with that pistol ball in him. And then Jesse went off to Missouri and left Mary, that's her name here. They became friends later on. And they laughed about that bullet still in Jackson. They changed his name during the war to Lee Conte for Robert E. Lee, and then changed it back to Sunnyside. And the name means, I forget, something like the beautiful house over the hills or something to the effect. This was no man's land, because the federal trench line is just about a half a mile that way. You know where the Confederate is, back that way. And the troops would get out here and start talking. Then they start trading. And there was, they called it Hell's Half Acre through here, where they get in and gambling and playing, and they were getting along real well. It's getting so bad that the Federal Army and Confederates had to get out of order to stop fraternizing with the enemy. Fraternization, you know, with the enemy. They raised hell about it. And during this lull, and I don't condone this, I love dogs, but during a lull, in this area, a Confederate tied some cans onto a dog's tail and sent him through the lines toward the Federals. They thought it was an attack, and they were shooting and firing, and the Confederates were laughing, just laughing. And one of them yelled back, "Well, that's the only Confederates going to get through our lines during this stretch." The Federals were cutting down so many trees, you know, for the trenches, for the wood, for whatever. One Federal said, and they're old trees too. There's not a lot of old trees in Nashville. They've all been cut down, and the modern development. But one Federal sadly lamented that if they're going to stay here through the winter, there wouldn't be one tree left in this whole town. Whole tree left in this whole town. And the opening shots with what you know at Bell's Bend, and then the redoubts, and starting through here skirmishing, because we're getting close to that middle over there where it's light fighting. They didn't want to pierce the center. They wanted to crush that Confederate right, fake the Federal left and crush that with that Federal right, or crush the Confederate left there. So it's just light fighting through here. Now, who remembers the name Thomas Benton Smith, General, Brigadier General, Shies Hill, T.D. Smith? Yeah. We're going to get Shies Hill later, so I'm not going to explain too much about that right now, except that William McMillan hit him in the head with a sword 3 times after he surrendered. That's all I'm going to say. But post-war, the old Confederate veterans, old men about my age, huh? Not that funny. But they would have their reunions down here, and they would drill. And Thomas Benton Smith, who had finally was in an insane asylum, he would have good days and bad days. I'll explain more about that later. But they bring him out here, and he could recite the roll call for the 20th Tennessee Company H by memory. And they would march and drill out here, the old veterans out here as well. And you know, it's a small stop here. Now there's a cabin around your corner there that was here in the early 30s or whatever. It's still original over there. I found a coin over there as a little boy too. An 1856 dime over there too as a little boy, 12 years old. I ride my bicycle out here. About 10 miles I'd ride with my military. That was in the late 60s. Wow. Yeah, and a lot of bullets have been found down there and such too. I imagine there's still a bullet or two out here somewhere, by the way. Now, Cannonball was a little boy. I remember that a Cannonball, they did a lot of restoration on this home. They found mini balls inside the beams, inside the house, and they found a Cannonball that was on one of the beams. Because I remember as a little boy, the man here showed me that Cannonball. No rust, no nothing. It looked like it had been fired, you know, last week. Because nothing, oxygen, it wasn't in the ground. It's in one of those beams inside the house. And I remember an old man showed that to me. old men about my age again, probably. I mean, they're all old when you're 12 years old. 30s was old. Robert E. Lee looked like Moses parting the Red Sea to me when I was a little boy. Jackson was old. Stonewall Jackson's getting younger every year, isn't he? It's scary. Yeah. But I wanted to show you that. Walk around. That's art, by the way, for people like Holmes. That is, I believe, that's dental work they call it, and that's Georgian architecture. Those, what do you call them? Those big things there. That's a master woodworker that does that. No little layman carpenter can do that. That's a master woodworker and craftsman is what does that type of work there.
And the corbels, is it
ma'am?
The corbels, you mean?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's what they're called, the corbels. Yes, ma'am. I have an 1856 home, a midget mansion, but I have those corbels. And you told me that, but a different looking. But I have that dental work as well. Good stuff. They need to paint that door, by the way.
They have a sign up here that says this place matters. Is it threatened, this home threatened or anything? See over there?
I don't know what they mean by this place matters, but obviously it matters. But with the Metropolitan Historical Commission, maybe that's to keep people from bothering it. Or
Preservation's the other side.
Can you take tours? Oh, it is?
I don't believe they have tours. Metro
Who owns it?
government owns it, Nashville, and they have offices in there. I don't believe they go tours. I've had meetings in there. The mantles in there are beautiful. Wood mantles, great huge things like something out of a movie or something in there. Just gorgeous, just gorgeous. I've had meetings in there, attended meetings. Now let's say 10 minutes we'll mount up. Yes, that is, I think, that's the sensei, I think. Yeah, because yes, what's there? Yeah. Right. He found some mini balls yesterday. So mini balls yesterday, he said he found. Relic hunters can be notorious, let's say exaggerators. I found a bullet at 15 inches, or 2 feet. I found a cannonball at 4 feet deep. Well, it was about a foot and a half. Or I found a mini ball at 18 inches deep. It was about 12 inches. I found it over there. It was really way over there because they're liars too, because they don't want to tell you where they found it because they're from behind them. And notorious liars, and I've been one of them too. Where'd you find this? Oh, I'm back that way. It's way over that way. They're like fishermen, tell the fish stories. But there's a lot of info too. If they trust you, they'll share that with you. And that's really helped me on the Battle of Nashville, what I found and what others have found. God help us here. Nobody coming.
Did you see the movie Fried Green Tomatoes?
I think I did. I don't remember that much about it.
Boy that had his arm amputated.
The core was in place. Clayton, Stevenson, Johnson's division are the first they fight. Their line would be to our right or south, Confederate along Woodmont Boulevard, which I'll show you later. There's a General Hood trail, by the way. There's a General Hood up there. I told Sam about that. He didn't know about that. And that brought to the book that they named streets for him before. Although it's starting to raise hell out of it, whatever. But my aunt lived there for 40 some odd years. The Melrose House, we're going into the Melrose district, but the Melrose House used to stand up here. I remember in the 70s, early 70s, an old woman was wearing a bonnet. It looked like something from like the turn of the century things. She lived there. I never forget that. And they found a lot of artifacts down here about this little putt-putt golf course, and when they took it up, swords and whatever. probably where they took the wounded back here. We're going to come up to this light, take a left or north. We're headed. Obviously, south would be to your right. And the what's the name of that house? Glen Leven. Glen Leven is not open to the public. Miss West owned it forever. She wouldn't let anybody get inside the house, even Mr. Harper. But she died and gave it to the Tennessee Historical Society. About 45, 50 acres saved in it. We did a controlled relic hunting dig there. We're going to give it all to the Historical Society about 5 years ago. And we found 2 breastplates. One had the gold all over it, the gilt. Oh, beautiful breastplate, perfect. The other one's perfect, with the hooks on the back of it. And it'd been hunted over the times. People sneak in there. We found about 50 mini balls and cannonball fragment. That was SD Lee's headquarters at Glen Leven. We'll drive by that. Sylvan Park is a sit down, but they're pretty quick. There's great food, from sandwiches to catfish to whatever. If by a miracle we can't get the bus in here, and I know I've taken a bus there before. Yeah, I know this. Then we'll go to another place. Stay in the right lane. That's the old Melrose Theater over there. I viewed movies as a little boy. Right over there, Melrose Theater. Those old theaters, you remember how they used to look? Very ornate, grandiose. We're on Franklin Road, which goes all the way to Franklin, and of course going toward Nashville. They now call this 8th Avenue. And right up here is the Sylvan Park restaurant. You'll see the sign there, and we'll see if we can get the bus in there. In the 1960s, there was a small Biltmore Hotel to your right over there. Now, I had a baseball team. You know, we played little boys, and we had a black boy on our team. His name was Hendricks. What's his first name? Joe Hendricks. And we're going to go swimming. And my father's former sheriff in Nashville, and they told him that Joe Hendricks can swim with us. And my father told him Joe Hendricks he's going to swim with us. You got any problem with that? No, Mr. Carter, we don't have a problem with it. And he swam with us. So I guess we can pull in there to the right and maybe